we don't ever consciously realize how many of us have values that were just stuck on us by people around us or our parents. Imagine the complications of having a value to be successful. And what does success mean? It means to be beating everyone else. But then we also have a value that is to be a good parent, but we haven't defined it. All we know about being a good parent is we didn't have good parents and they were never around. So we have to be a good parent by always being around. But we also have to be successful by beating everyone else. When you have two conflicting values, what do you get? You dial in deep and you're like, oh, I have a value that I've never admitted before, and it's called perfection. Or it's called competence. There's nothing wrong with being competent, but you don't want the ruler of your life to be like, does somebody else recognize that I'm competent? Because it becomes real destructive real fast. So let's define values for a moment. A value rules your belief system. It's the highest order of what organizes a person's thoughts, because it forces your thoughts into alignment with whatever the value is. It also programs your reticular activating system, which is important because if we have a good reticular activating system, by good, I'm saying it's helpful and it's high utility, then it will attract opportunities into your life. How many of you would like more of those? How many of you need more of those? Great, I'm going to fix all of you because that was the wrong answer. Whatever you need, if you need it a lot, it begins to show up as a threat to not have it. So if you need something, you have to make sure that that need is actually factored into how you're supposed to live. And needing money is not a good need. Needing approval, not a good need. Because your fears come from your needs. What's the only acceptable fear that we should have? Yes. So we can need that. God, the Lord, whatever you want to call him, is fine. But anything else that's a need is actually going to harm us because it's going to show up in our reticular activating system as a threat if we don't have it. Okay? So we don't want to have need. We want to have desires. Desires are healthy. But we don't want to need it. When you look at a person's values, what they're going to say, what they're going to feel, what they're going to do is all going to come from the value. And it's like a programmatic script. It's happening like subconsciously. It's happening in a microsecond. And it is the core program that will shift the world around you. Not everything that you achieve should require you to do something. There are some things that you are supposed to achieve that require very little effort. Does that mean it will be easy? You need a nap. That 1 hour of sleep is starting to get to you. She's like, define easy. Okay. It doesn't mean that it's easy, but it can be effortless. There's a difference. And I'm just kidding about the nap. You look incredible. You really do. Everything you have going on is perfect. Don't change anything. I want to... Thank you. If you consider yourself a faithful person, what does a faithful person do? Consistent? At what? Okay. Minimums?
That's my name. I should know.
Faith? Faithful's your name? Wow. Are you a faithful person?
I certainly asked my husband.
Is she a faithful person? That's probably why you're joyful.
It's probably
Yeah. Because when your behavior matches a value, you have a level of life that bubbles out of you. There's a part of your brain called the anterior cingulate cortex that tracks you. It's tracking your decisions, it's tracking your words, it's tracking your choices, and it punishes you for decisions that you make that are contrary to your values. Which is why you can have a person who says one thing with their mouth and they do another thing with their hands, and you will never meet a less happy person. It is because they have an actual part of their brain that is creating pain inside of them. So we don't have to be afraid of this, but we should know what's happening when we say one thing and do another. Because it's actually a torturous experience to live in. If you consider yourself a faithful person, when you are getting your self-esteem from things, what are you getting your self-esteem from? This is how your wife looks at me when I'm talking. I'm like, why are you so mad at me? Where are you getting your self-esteem from if your value is faithful? Decisions that you make that show yourself as faithful. And if the reticular activating system knows now that your value is to be faithful, it's going to bring to your awareness consciously opportunities for you to be faithful. What about generous? What does it mean to be generous? To give without expecting. That's my wife. She knows. I stole a lot of this from her, so she already knows the words. A generous person, they look for opportunities to be generous. In fact, it's not just them that look for opportunities. It's the collective consciousness around them that looks for opportunities to be generous. And now we're in the world of quantum entanglement. Because there is a collective consciousness. It's scientific. And so if you're around a bunch of generous people, you start to see opportunities to be generous, and you start wanting to be generous. What if you have a value to be famous? Huh? You what? You attract opportunities for it. But can the value of being famous be corrupted? Can the value of being generous be corrupted? Can the value of being famous be corrupted? All of these things can be corrupted, but some things are more susceptible than others. What about the value of success? Especially if you don't define what success means, and your definition of success is coming from people on Instagram, and then 24/7 your untingulate cerebral cortex is punishing you because you have a value that was left undefined that you'll never be able to match up to. This is why our values run our lives. So, how have you ever been in a situation where you were feeling something and you wish to God that you were not feeling that way anymore? And then you tried to change the way you feel? Did it work? How did you do it? You stole that, man. I'm just kidding. Say it again.
It's like you remember how you felt before, the feeling you feel now, the one, like if you're feeling what you don't like, you go back to a place to where you felt good and you try to replicate that.
Why does that work?
I don't know. It just does.
Okay. Brianna Wiest says, if there is an ongoing gap between where you are and where you want to be, and when your efforts to close the gap are consistently met with your own resistance, pain, and discomfort, self-sabotage is almost always at work. In reality, self-sabotage is simply the presence of an unconscious need, there it is, that is being fulfilled by the self-sabotaging behavior. It's in your workbook. Don't ask me which page. You'll find it. 59. It's on page 59. I don't know what else is on page 59. I've abandoned my workbook for the day. The RAS isn't static. It's constantly making decisions to evolve based on what you have told it is important. So if you go back in time to a moment that you were feeling good, you don't just clone the feeling, you clone the state from where you were in that moment. Your values are constantly changing unless we cement them in. And so this is a crazy room, man. When we have a value that is saying, I want to be this right here, but we have a secondary value that says, I also want to be this, and we don't have the right definitions on those values. Success was one example, but what if we go into the deeper layers of what is the value of being a good mom? What does it mean to have a value on being a good parent? If we leave them undefined, they will be defined for us, and we won't know how to achieve them. What is the value of being successful? What is the definition of success? It's undefined. It's constantly going to be defining itself for us based on what we're looking at, based on what we're hearing. And so imagine the complications of having a value to be successful. And what does success mean? Well, it means to be beating everyone else. Obviously, because social media. But then we also have a value that is to be a good parent. But we haven't defined it. All we know about being a good parent is we didn't have good parents and they were never around. So we have to be a good parent by always being around. But we also have to be successful by beating everyone else. And so one day you wake up and you're crushing it in life and business and you're grinding forward to beat everyone, but you realize that you're not being a good parent because the definition of a good parent is to be at home. When you have two conflicting values, what do you get? A neuroscientist with conflict, you get both of them at the same time, which is not actually good. Because at the same time, temporally means over a month, over a quarter. So one day you get the value met of being successful, but then the next day you violate that value to go back and meet the value definition of being a good parent. And then you fix that one, and then you go back and you go back to being successful. And you go back and forth and back and forth. And both times when you're switching, your ACC is punishing you for being out of alignment with your values, which is nonstop, 24/7 pain. You're just going to put both of them up into the world at the same time. These feelings are coming because we're either meeting a value or we're not meeting a value. So here's an exercise that we're going to do just for a second. You guys good to work? You want me to work the whole time? Let's go like on a journey together. I want to ask you guys if you've ever felt something you don't want to feel. You all said yes. So let's isolate that feeling that you don't want to feel. You may not be feeling it now, but you felt it at some point, maybe recently. And I want you to think about it from the level above the feeling. What value could be causing me to feel this way? What unmet value is causing me to feel the way that I don't want to feel? And let's see if we get back into the value definitions. Does this question make sense? You good?
Yes.
If you have a feeling that you don't want to feel, what value is driving it? Because if you don't want to feel it, it's coming from an unmet need. It's coming from an unmet value that's not being achieved or accomplished. Let's see if we can find that value. And then we're going to either replace values or redefine values. Both do the same thing. Cool? All right, 3 minutes. Let's go. We don't ever consciously realize how many of us have values that were just stuck on us, like by people around us or our parents or whatever. And so all these things, we're like freaking out, losing our minds. And you dial in deep and you're like, oh, I have a value that I've never admitted before, and it's called perfection. Or it's called competence. Well, there's nothing wrong with being competent. You don't want to be incompetent. But you don't want the ruler of your life to be like, does somebody else recognize that I'm competent? because it becomes real destructive real fast. And it has this like this chunking effect of like that value will create not one belief system, but 7 belief systems that are all pointing you to try to prove something. And it's not a great value. So here's what we're going to do. 2 minutes to share the contents of this exercise. And if the person's talking and they don't make any sense, do them a favor and just say, I don't understand what you're saying, so you can get them to work the exercise a little bit deeper, okay? Make sense?